I'm Louise Field, Director of Adore Your Pelvic Floor. We are a training provider to health and fitness professionals, but we also offer a pelvic floor health program to the community. We have a series of videos with experts in their field offering advice specific to men receiving treatment in prostate cancer. One area that we feel deserves focus are the emotional implications and the confidence factors that can occur at diagnosis and onwards. We have the wonderful Rachel Willett, who is a therapist and coach, and she centers her work on self-worth and confidence. Hi, Rachel. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, hello, Louise. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, we are honoured and very, very grateful. Rachel, can we begin with what is your main message in supporting men?
My main message is please don't suffer alone with this. I've worked with lots of men over the years, over the last over 25 years, lots and lots of men in relation to emotional well-being. And what I've consistently heard from men is how they have, obviously not every single man, but it is a consistent theme that men often feel they've got to go through difficulties like this alone. And what ends up happening is bottling up thoughts and feelings, squashing away emotions, very often because men feel that it's weak to be otherwise. It's that men have been fed this idea that to seek help and to express emotion and to talk about your feelings is not a masculine or manly thing to do. And it's completely the opposite. There's so much strength in doing that. There's so much strength in seeking help and expressing what's there and working through what's there. And there really is no need to go through such a life-changing experience on your own.
But it can be hard, can't it, when it's on personal matters as well.
Oh, absolutely. I can totally understand with an experience such as prostate cancer and the wide range of implications for men in relation to this. It can be really hard to speak about how it's impacting you physically and emotionally. And with things like the devastating impact of loss of libido and struggles with within sexual relationships and things like that, for most people, it's really, really hard to talk about those things, to feel embarrassed and feel shameful. But there's so much support to be had, and there's so much to gain from reaching out and connecting. And one of the biggest things I've noticed over the years, when men have the opportunity to support each other and connect with each other, how the main thing I've heard is, I've realized it's not just me. It's not just me that's going through this. And sometimes just that in itself can be transformational for not just men, but for any of us. But particularly that's what I've heard from men. I thought it was just me that had these feelings and these thoughts and worried about these things. So I would be saying, or I am saying to men, have a look in your area, see what is available. It's completely understandable and quite normal, I think, to think, oh, no, I don't want to go along to something like that. If there is a support group or something available local to you, I would say try it out, go and see. It's going to be so much more comfortable than you imagine, probably, because again, having worked with men in groups, that is usually what I hear from them is, oh, I really wasn't looking forward to this, and I'm not very good in groups, and I thought I was going to feel uncomfortable, and then after a while, completely the opposite, and benefiting from that connection and support. And again, that it's not just me, I'm not on my own here.
Yeah, and I can imagine there is actually a journey of emotions, isn't there, from diagnosis to taking everything on board, or even first of all before you even go to the GP.
Yes.
So it's that lead up from wondering if you need to go to the GP, to then actually doing that, to then being referred, to then having a diagnosis, to then start treatment, and the implications of the treatment, to then what is actually going on in up here and dealing with that. It's a huge different range of emotions.
Yes, it must be. I imagine it must be an emotional roller coaster. And again, at a time in your life where this thing is happening to you, which is out of your control, it's happening within your body, what can be very grounding is to focus on what is within your control. So your emotional well-being and the choices that you make in relation to that are within your control. It's not to say it's not to minimize this in any way and to say, oh, well, that's easy, I'll just do that then and everything will be fine. We know it's not like that. But if there are resources, so for example, speaking to your GP about how you are feeling emotionally, not just focusing on the physical implications of the experience. And I was looking before in planning, Louise, for this, I was looking at the Prostate Cancer UK website, and it was just amazing to see that there's, first of all, there are specialist nurses that you can contact. And if you are somebody who's feeling embarrassed and awkward and all of those things, which is quite understandable, and I would think very normal, it seems to me that you can remain quite anonymous in that. There's even a WhatsApp service. So there are numerous ways to contact specialists: WhatsApp, email, you can call, and just start the process of speaking to somebody who understands what you're experiencing and might be able to signpost you further to resources, whether it's online or whether, now the world's opening up a little bit, whether there are things local to you that you can access for support.
Yeah, so it's finding the right support.
Yes,
for you as a person.
Yes, definitely. And that's a really good point, because there may be things that you look at and that you access and you think, oh no, that really isn't for me. But don't give up at the first one. If the first one seems a bit daunting or just doesn't sit well with you, keep going and keep going and look for somebody that you feel that you could connect with, someone that you can, at the very least, express yourself to. I think that's what I feel is so important, is being able just to express what's going on.
Because we're having this conversation as we go along, but that's like that with many other things in life, isn't it? So just because it's an emotional thing, and if you get the doors don't open and you don't find that resource being benefiting immediately, it's trying another one, because you do in life with other things. If you buy shoes and they don't fit, you try another pair of shoes on.
Yeah? Yes, exactly. Yeah. And yes, it can be exactly the same with this kind of service, with this kind of support. Really, if you are doing a little bit of research, or you maybe are talking to a few different practitioners or professionals, you, after a while, there'll be a moment where you feel, yes, I feel I can click with that person. It's always about safety. None of us as human beings will open up unless we feel safe. So it's finding an environment in which you can do that, whether that is as part of a group, whether that is working with a nurse, whether that is finding a therapist or another practitioner where you feel you can relax and you're going to be heard, you're not going to be judged, there's no judgment in this, and that you're going to be supported to navigate the emotional process for yourself.
Yeah, because also if you've got a supportive partner, that goes a hell of a long way.
Oh, yes.
But not everybody is going to have a relationship or a supportive relationship.
No, and I would say even when you have a supportive partner, it's still useful to seek support outside of the relationship, because that is completely objective then. You know, it must be so hard for partners too. And being able then to access support outside of that does free some things up. So the experience of prostate cancer and the impact of that on an intimate relationship, for example, is quite something. And it may be that within that relationship there are certain things that you just can't talk about initially, or you just can't get your head round. So having somebody outside of that who's completely separate to your life and who is there to support you and help you work through things can be so beneficial.
And when you're talking to somebody outside, you can be completely selfish about your thoughts and your feelings and
yes,
and not
yeah,
the other person's.
exactly, because that dynamics, it's a completely different dynamic. And in fact, that is the point of accessing support for yourself, is it is about you. And remembering that in doing that, it's not about, you are supporting your relationship and your relationship. So it's not just partners, it's family and children and the other roles in your life, your role as an employee, as a friend, all the different roles that we hold. You investing in you and supporting yourself has that ripple effect.
Yeah.
So you supporting yourself and choosing to engage with something like that is going to have a massive impact on your relationship with a partner, because it's about your emotional well-being, your emotional resilience, and so forth.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm just thinking of some of the symptoms that men may find they have with hormone treatment that is linked to some prostate treatment. Anxiety can occur. Is there any kind of like top tips? Top tips seems really sort of like trivial to say that, but is there anything you suggest?
There are lots of tools, lots of simple tools to manage anxiety. And I say that they're simple, again, without trivializing the experience of anxiety. And it can be useful to search for those. There's plenty available on the internet. CBT tools, cognitive behavioral therapy tools, can be really effective for anxiety. So some of the things to look out for are breathing, because anxiety is very much about being in the fight or flight state. The body goes into that state and adrenaline is released, and we experience really unpleasant physical symptoms in various areas of the body. Learning to breathe, and there are different techniques that are easily accessible, but learning to breathe deeply just for a few moments can really help regulate the nervous system.
Absolutely. It's like you say, it's even just for a few moments. Just finding the way of doing it for you. For me, I know that I'll just close my eyes, I take a few deep breaths, and I can then open my eyes. I already feel calmer. But that's the practice that's worked for me. And it's other people will find their own way of getting there. And it carries on going like that, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So if you're watching this and you're interested in that, so you could search for box breathing. That's a technique that's very effective in managing the some of the physical symptoms of anxiety. And if you and just by searching anxiety and breathing, lots of useful, simple step-by-step tools they're all very similar, but that point being of you're regulating your oxygen intake, and that then has a positive impact on the nervous system.
Yeah.
And there are some grounding techniques as well. If you Google grounding and anchoring, those two words, you'll find techniques that support you in bringing you back to the present moment. So what anxiety is very much about being caught in the future, worrying about things that haven't happened yet. And one of the ways to support ourselves in managing that is returning to the present and anchoring yourself in the present by focusing on the things you can see, hear, taste, touch, smell. There's some really, again, simple processes. If you Google those, then you can learn a fairly swift, simple step-by-step approach of bringing yourself back to the present.
Absolutely. And once again, it's finding the right pair of shoes that fit you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there's no right and wrong in it. It's always about what suits you as an individual. And again, like we said, just because one thing works for one person doesn't mean it should work for you. If you try something and you think, oh, actually, that feels a bit weird, I don't really like that, don't give up, because there are plenty of other things that you can try. Maybe not for now, because it's quite lengthy to describe it, but learning to reframe your thoughts is a very, very self-supporting strategy in relation to the experience of anxiety, because our thoughts can get so caught in the negative, and because of the way the mind works, those thoughts amplify the experience of anxiety. So learning to, again, there are some CBT strategies that are easily accessible online that can help you do that. It takes practice. And again, I'm not suggesting you just say a few things to yourself and it all goes away. That isn't how it works. But many things in combination, different strategies in combination, can be so effective.
Yeah. And I think going back to what you've already said, but in a slightly different way, talking, it's surprising actually when you talk how things can also just calm down just because you've spoken about it.
Yes, exactly. They're no longer just whooshing around in your head.
Yeah.
They're out. And there's something very powerful in the process of talking as well. You know, we hear our own thoughts, we're able to review what we're saying. If you're speaking with a good listener who really is just holding that space for you and reflecting back what they're hearing from you, that can be really useful in helping you process your thoughts and organize your thoughts and let some thoughts go and maybe choose other ones. It's a powerful process, and yes, very much about not having to hold it all in and have it all whirring around. So some of the men that I've worked with in the past have called it washing machine thinking, you know, where it just goes round and round. Rumination is another more technical term for it, but getting caught in looping thoughts, there is so much we can do with those, and it's a natural human trait. But of course, in moments of challenging moments in our lives, such as this, can make that so much worse sometimes.
Yeah, and to take each step from diagnosis onwards as a step.
Yes.
Yeah, step by step.
Dealing with one thing at a time. You haven't got to figure it all out in one go.
Yeah.
Keep coming back to what, yes, it's that point about being present. Come back to, what are the facts? What is it that I know in this moment? Very often, and it's so common for us to do it in relation to health issues, to sort of catastrophize. And I don't mean that in a judgmental way. It's just another human way of thinking, is that we can immediately assume the worst about a situation.
Yeah.
But being able to come back to, actually, what is it that I know? What are the facts? What is actually happening right now in this moment? What's within my control and what is outside of my control? And choosing and learning to let go of what's outside of our control. Again, is more, I'm not suggesting that's really easy. It does take practice, but it can really support us just in life generally, but especially when dealing with health issues and the concerns around those.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that really this series of videos that we've put together is about the things you can help for yourself, i.e., yes, your nutrition that can support you, your bone heart health, and we've got a men's pelvic health physio coming on, and we're having a session about let's talk about sex. All of the things that we can actually make an adjustment to feel like we are actually doing something.
Yes.
Which is rather than just go to the lap of the gods.
Yes.
I can do this.
Yeah. And it's empowering, isn't it? To be able to work out, well, what am I going to take charge of? And one of the things you most definitely can take charge of is your mind. And by mind, I mean your brain in action, the way in which you're thinking and the way in which you're running your mind will have a massive, not just through this phase of experience and life, but has a massive impact on our lives and does have a physical impact too. So that, you know, the thoughts that we think have every single thought that we think is responded to by the body. The body responds to our thoughts. It's a fascinating area how the way that we think impacts on our genetic makeup and the cells in our bodies too. So the more that you can do to take control, going over my words there, take control of the way in which you're thinking about you, the way in which you're thinking about your experience, and using that in the management process and the healing process is really powerful. Never underestimate the power of that kit that we have, the mind.
That's brilliant. So I'm thinking that the takeaway points that we have here is, yes, do talk, find the right avenue for you. You can even WhatsApp, there's services to WhatsApp a nurse, and you can do it also where you're not face to face. So
yes,
like anonymous as such, or there are other support groups you can attend and approach your GP. Again, it's talk and do what you can to help calm and what you can then put into place for what you are in charge of.
Absolutely. I think that sums it up beautifully, that, you know, what we've been talking about.
Well, that's just absolutely wonderful, because totally respect your work. And Rachel, we really appreciate that many men will be able to watch this, and your wise words will be heard and heard and heard.
Oh, I really hope so. If one person watches and finds something useful, then that's wonderful. It's such a pleasure to be part of this. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, bye-bye now.
Bye.